Welcome everyone. It's Trey here. I'm on this 10th day of September 2018. I'm here with my friend Aaron. We've had one hangout previous to this, and we had a very nice conversation. And here we are again. He's requested another audience to talk about the theory of evolution. And Aaron, I think, do you have a degree in biology or something?
Yeah, I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology.
Okay, all right. I thought she said something about that. There's some kind of training in that field, and
That was a while back though, so I can remember quite a bit from it. But I think I think the statistic is we only retain like 3% of what we learn in college.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. For anything that we learn, unless we jog it, it kind of drifts away, which is fine because I don't have any education. I don't remember if I told you I did very poorly in high school and flunked out of college very quickly. So anything I know, I've just kind of learned on my own as a school of hard knocks and interacting with people on the internet. But anyway, I didn't say welcome, so welcome, Aaron. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Oh, thanks for having me again.
Okay.
College education doesn't mean you're smarter than anybody else anyway. So
yeah, but it certainly doesn't hurt either. It's good to have
it helps you be more well-rounded, I guess. But you can get that with age.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true. Life is a great educational tool if you treat it right. Okay, so I'm going to let you kind of lead this conversation and however you'd like to go, and I'll be on the receiving end and try to answer your questions if I can, and I'll let you get the driver's seat.
Well, like I said, I didn't have anything planned. All right, I didn't have anything. I'm not very good at organizing my thoughts to begin, so I was just gonna, shoot from the hip here.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I discovered that you are a young Earth creationist. Is that correct?
I am. Yes.
Okay. So what is just to kind of get started here? What is your view of science? Like, just science in general?
Okay. Well, for me, science is it comes from the Latin word sciare, just means knowledge. And so, as we define science in our contemporary culture today, it's going to generally mean empirical science, because empiricism has been, particularly since the Enlightenment, has been the mode of interaction that we have had as the mainstream. Although historically speaking, that's not the case at all. There's usually been a marrying of philosophy and empiricism, and it's gone back and forth. And I think the 17th century was the age of rationalism. The 18th century was the age of empiricism, and so we kind of, through the Enlightenment, we kind of got stuck in that rut of empiricism. So today, when we look at things and we see the way that we understand how we gain knowledge, it's always going to generally be focusing on epistemology. How do we know what we know, and how we relate to the world around us? In ages past, the fascination was for metaphysics, and it's like, what is the ultimate reality? What is the reality that coheres all the diversity together? And so those are two separate disciplines. And so from your perspective, you're going to be, especially a naturalistic perspective, you're going to be looking at looking at matter and seeing how one bit of matter interacts with another bit of matter. And you're not going to really look at purpose or formal principle or final principle, if you will, these Aristotelian categories. And so for me, I'm not just looking at matter, I'm looking at why something does what it does, and I am not willing to dismiss the whole idea of purpose or will or volition or value or teleology in it. It's very important for me as well, and I think it gives us a better rounding of the inquiry that we have of the world in which we live. I hope that's not too confusing. I don't know if that was helpful at all.
No, I mean, I know you're more into the teleological aspect of it. Me, when I'm thinking of science, I'm thinking of the how questions, not like the why questions.
Right. Yes.
Stuff that has causes right here within our view of our accessible to our senses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could say something like, I think like Carl Sagan said, in order to make an apple pie, you need the Big Bang, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can take it all the way back to the very beginning if you want to.
Right.
Um, but generally, what I see from like younger creationists is I see this view of science like they think it's some sort of tight knit sorority or fraternity, where getting ahead means like kowtowing up to your superiors or your department chairs, doing exactly what they say to get ahead, just maintain the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
When really it couldn't be further from the truth. It's you actually want to upset the apple cart as a scientist. You want to be, you want to, falsify a theory that maybe was well established, because that's the way you're going to become famous. You're going to get a Nobel Prize that way.
Right.
You don't want to just maintain the status quo.
That's true. However, let me say something though. Although we all do in any discipline, that's where success is going to be found. Even in journalism, if you're going to find something that's explosive about some individual or some topic or something like that, that's the only way that you're going to really make it. We live in an age now that is marked by innovation. Innovation is everything for us today. Historically speaking, though, innovation was not looked upon so highly. It was more they were looking for that which is established. And innovation was not viewed to be so great. And both of those paradigms, you need both. You need to have innovation, but you also need to learn from the past and be willing to look back. That's how we had the Renaissance, by returning back to the way that of the ways of the Greeks and the ancients. And that's what gave birth to the Renaissance. The ad fontes was the famous quote from the Renaissance, which is to the fount, back to the fountain, back to the source, and to go back and learn things again. But today we live in an age where everything is marked by innovation. And so certainly in every discipline you do want to have innovation, you want to have change. But it's important that we have a well-rounded view when we're considering things about the discipline in which we have, and we need to be sure that we have a well-rounded view of everything. So what we are is every person is a product of their culture and their society at that time, and they have blind spots that they don't see and they don't understand. And I believe that's the case today with science, is people are stuck in a view, and yes, indeed they do. The naturalists today want to find innovation. They're earnestly desiring to break the mold and to find new answers. M's theory, what's the theory for everything? The problem is that although they want to be different, they don't even realize it, that they are locked within a very limited paradigm. That's what I was talking about when I first started the Hangout, that they don't even understand the idea of thinking about things metaphysically. And they don't think about things. I know one of my favorite Christian apologists is James White, and he said, those who say they don't have a theology are merely slaves to some theology that they don't perceive. You know what I'm saying? So people will say, well, I don't want to give into church dogma. Well, they have a dogma. They just are ignorant to it, and therefore they're going to be slaves to it, because they won't even acknowledge that there is something possible that they are missing out on. Until that's why Socrates said, we cannot really learn until we first admit our ignorance. Now, I'm not saying scientists today are arrogant, and not saying they're not ignorant. I'm just saying they don't even know what they don't know. They're so far afield of thinking about things regarding metaphysics that they are just locked into this paradigm. So although I agree with you, I say that they are looking forward to discovering new things and breaking the molds and breaking the glass ceiling, whatever it may be for any particular discipline. They are locked in to their paradigm. I have several friends who are atheists who have degrees in philosophy, and it's amazing to me how ignorant they are about things that, historically speaking, have been fundamental things about philosophy. They don't even understand. These guys spend 4 years of their lives, and sometimes some of them even more, studying philosophy, and they don't even know the fundamentals, historically speaking, what the purpose of philosophy was. And again, I think it's because in the Enlightenment there was this attitude that we don't need to think about things that we cannot touch or see or feel, and it has given us a great what I want to say, a disadvantage in our inquiry about the world. So I would agree with you, but I would also like to add to that there are unless we realize that there may be complete realms that we are ignorant of, we can never get past the weaknesses that we have.
So scientists used to be called natural philosophers before they were scientists.
I'm sorry, you said it again?
So scientists used to be called natural philosophers before they were scientists, right? Before that term came about. They're considered.
Yes, and philosophy was, I mean, for theology, and this even in the Christian church today, they're very anti-philosophy, but historically speaking, that's not the case. It used to be said that theology is the queen of the sciences and philosophy is her handmaiden. And the example that's used is like, it's like theology was like the gravitational pull of the solar system, and or the center of gravity, I should say. The center of gravity is theology, and then philosophy would be like the gravitational pull itself that brings us to that thing. And so, Aristotle was considered to be a great benefit and blessing to Middle Age theology. And for Augustine used Platonic thought. He synthesized it with Christianity. It was very helpful as well. And so philosophy used to be considered to be very important in any discipline in which you move. And let me tell you what happened during the Enlightenment. With the introduction of Newtonian physics or early modern physics, Aristotle had this view of physics that used the fourfold causality, and everything in it has in this formal cause, and it's moving it toward this certain thing. And it was a faulty physics. It was very bad. And so Newton comes along. Newton was a principal who brings on and brings a new paradigm of physics as to how things work. And what it did is it very simplified it. It basically just said how we can learn through these gravity and the other electromagnetism stuff, and see how these objects naturally actually relate to each other in a very predictable fashion. And it was a wonderful revolution. But what it did is they threw out Aristotelian metaphysics. I'm sorry, they threw out Aristotelian physics, which was faulty. It was wrong. It was bad. But in the same time, they threw out the baby with the bathwater. They threw out Aristotelian metaphysics as well. And that's what I was alluding to, that we lost our ability to think about things as in regard to purpose. And so I believe we've been running on like 6 cylinders on an 8-cylinder engine for 250 years now. And I think this is actually changing right now, both in the secular realm and in the Christian realm. We're seeing a revival of this whole concept of metaphysics, and it's really quite exciting, and the whole discipline of philosophy. And I think that as we regain that, I think we're going to see just leaps and bounds of growth in our scientific inquiry as a whole.
Yeah, the problem is though, we're inundated with so much information, which includes so many bad ideas, anecdotal ideas, right?
Yes.
There's become this demarcation problem between science and pseudoscience. I mean, you
Yes.
see it all over the internet. I mean,
That's right.
read articles from popular media with sciencey sounding words and buzzwords they use, and a lot of people buy into it and they think it's some sort of actual verifiable science, when it's just pseudoscience, right?
That's right.
Are fearful of getting into that realm when they're trying to, if maybe we reach a limit of our knowledge and we say, hey, we don't know, and then try to employ some sort of philosophical reasoning. I think that works better in like other sciences like physics, right? We reach a point in physics, especially like quantum physics or Big Bang cosmology, where we do need to start employing some philosophical thought. But some of the other sciences like chemistry, the hard sciences, and even in biology, I think it's less necessary.
Yeah, I would probably disagree with that. And I think that we need to have understanding our philosophical presuppositions. I'm not a presuppositionalist. Please don't read more into that word that I'm talking about. We all come to the table with our set of tools with which we do our inquiry. And if that set of tools is limited, it's gonna affect our biology. It's gonna affect our physics. It's gonna affect everything. In fact, the kind of philosophy that most naturalists do with physics, like Niels Bohr or something, is horrific. Really, really bad. And again, if you're gonna claim that there is no presupposition, then you're a slave to the presuppositions that you have, because you're not even willing to look. You don't even have the capacity to look at them and to question them. So I think that it's important that we. I think that we have an entire paradigm shift that's occurring right now, and it is going to be seismic. I really believe that. I'm very optimistic about the future on that level. And I think, in fact, for Christianity, I don't think Christianity, as this continues to strengthen, Christianity is no longer going to be considered to be the butt of society when it comes to thinking. It used to be that nobody questioned the existence of God in the Middle Ages. And it's not because they were so stupid at that time. They were incredibly intelligent. It's just because the argumentation was so cogent that anybody who would question it would didn't want to look like a fool, because they couldn't question it because the argumentation was so good. And I think with the advent of Enlightenment thought, many people fell dead at the feet of Immanuel Kant or David Hume. And
you think the common people knew of all these argumentations that were just
no.
I mean,
No, because they didn't have the printing press, they didn't have reading. But those who are academics, the scientific revolution was a Christian revolution. The reason the scientific revolution happened is because Christianity taught that the universe is rational, it is coherent, it is discoverable, it is teleological. There's a purpose, there's a goal to what you're doing. You never saw a scientific revolution happen like that in the East. I think it's Herbert Butterfield in his book.
Yeah, until people like Copernicus started, coming along with.
Yeah, but Copernicus was a Christian.
Yeah, but when they start coming up with,
he wasn't a skeptic. I mean, he was just looking at the facts in a different way.
Yeah, when you start challenging the Christian ideas, though, that we're not the center of the universe, then you get put on house arrest.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is the one thing I want to bring up too. Whenever you see somebody challenging the consensus, they're always attacked, and they're always considered to be, I would even say it's about any form of creationism. It's attacked vociferously because here you've got a paradigm that works. And you see somebody, everything is, I don't know if we had this argument. I have this argument with atheist friends all the time, and none of them really, most of them say they don't know what I'm talking about. I know they know what I'm talking about. They just don't like it. But all of us are seeking salvation. That's what we're doing. Why we're doing science. Science is about salvation. It's about how do we perpetuate our lives, not just to make ourselves live longer, but even to make life full and happy. And so that's what we're all engaged in this endeavor of salvation. And so what you do is you have this paradigm that's working really well, you think. And then somebody comes to challenge it, and you're like, no, you're going to mess it up. You're going to make a mess of all of our beautiful, tapestry of existence that we have right now, and you're going to make trouble for it. And so they're always going to be attacked. And the whole point of philosophy is, this is the point that I was talking about earlier. Many of my atheist friends don't even understand this. The whole purpose of philosophy is to unify diversity. It's how to make coherence out of chaos. If you remember, Carl Sagan said the universe is cosmos and not chaos. Okay, and this is a great question. The whole concept of the university was to make unity out of diversity. That's why we go there. We take all of these different disciplines and we try to bring them together and make a coherence I'm sorry?
Just trying to understand our world, right? We've always tried to do that.
But for the goal of existence, though, for the goal of happy living, for the goal of living as long as we can.
Or just the biological urge of curiosity, right?
But that biological urge is toward a goal of salvation. And you cannot have a goal unintentionally. That's one of my whole points. This is the whole problem with evolution, Darwinian evolution. It's a wonderful 19th century story, but it doesn't stand a test of time. Darwin was a product of his.
Darwin was a creationist.
No, actually he was not. He didn't address the whole issue of cosmogony, but it was a naturalistic perspective that was.
He still believed in a creator behind that was responsible for all the life and the diversity he saw.
I don't know that he was. Can you find a quote on that? I don't think he was dogmatically saying it. He was more agnostic.
For the exact, I don't remember the exact quote, but I can find it.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a strong statement. I don't know if that comports to reality. But if you want to say that, if you want to be a theistic evolutionist, that's a universe of difference between naturalistic evolution. Okay, and this is a big deal. Richard Dawkins likes to play this game. He'll sit there and act like people who are theistic evolutionists are on his side when it's convenient, or the intelligentsia of the evolutionary crowd, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's fine," but when they're really honest, Darwinian evolution. If you listen to what Dawkins says in The Selfish Gene, I listened to the audiobook on that. He says, everything looks like it's created for a purpose and moving toward a goal, but it's an illusion. It's not really true. And it's the Darwinian synthesis, as it stands, as a naturalistic. It's built upon the presupposition of naturalism, that nature is all there is. And so, if you want to say that, hold on a second. If you want to say that God is guiding everything, and He uses the instrument of evolution, I don't think that really works in the long run. But then you're a creationist. That is a creationist by definition.
Evolution only pertains to the diversification of life after life started. Like it says nothing about the origins. It says nothing about that's abiogenesis.
That's right. It doesn't address first things, because the system's already in you've already got the the DNA replicating mechanism. This highly complex system is already going along and from the very beginning of the thing. So it assumes
that's how you can have theistic evolutionists without any real issues.
Well, but would you agree that a theistic evolutionist is a creationist?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They're just.
And if you will talk to any Darwinist who is, if someone is, do you agree that naturalism is anti-creationistic?
Yeah, naturalism. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not wed to naturalism either.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad for that, because that's the key right there. Because if you call yourself a naturalist and you call yourself a theistic evolutionist, you are talking out of both sides of your mouth, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I just want to make that distinction. I want to say that those people who believe that God is behind evolution are in my camp. Okay, they're closer to they're a universe closer to young Earth creationism than they are to naturalistic Darwinian evolution. Okay, the neo-Darwinian synthesis.
So here's another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree that okay, so you think that the same God that authored the Bible is the same God that authored nature, right?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So if you find that your interpretation of, say, the Bible, for example, comes into conflict with what we observe in nature, would it make more sense to think that it's your interpretation that needs to change and not nature?
Sure, that's what happened in the Copernican revolution.
Okay. So, next question: What do you think a theory is? A scientific theory?
Well, you have a hypothesis where you observe, you have your senses, and you sense something, experience something within this realm, and then you make a hypothesis. You think, okay, maybe this could work this way, and so it's just an idea that you have in your mind, and then you put it. You have a theory. A theory is where you actually put tests to that hypothesis, and if you cannot disprove that theory, then it becomes a law, or it becomes accepted. It's accepted. You could say accepted theory, but really, if something cannot be disproven, it's like a law of gravity. Tried to disprove it, and they can't do it. Therefore, it stands.
Okay, I would clarify that it's not, a theory is not really a law, because so you've got.
No, it's not a law. That's what I'm saying. It becomes a law if you cannot disprove it.
So you've got, I would say, 3 different levels, I guess, of knowledge. You've got facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Facts are a dime a dozen. Okay, they don't really mean anything.
Okay.
Okay, we observe facts all the time. They're kind of useless unless you can do something with them, right? Then we have laws, which are a little higher order than facts, right? A theory in science is going to be of the highest order of understanding, because it's going to be a comprehensive explanation of all those facts, and not just from one discipline, but it's going to be from multiple disciplines that all kind of converge together on the same idea, right? And it's got to be falsifiable. It's got to make predictions. It's got to make testable predictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the more of those predictions they can make and we can test and verify, the better that theory is. Um, the more times we can attempt to falsify it and fail to falsify it, the better that theory is. Do you agree
Mhm.
with that?
Yes.
Okay. So, what, just on scientific terms, not like theological terms, like what is your main issue with biological evolution?
Um,
Say,
my
say with Homo sapiens.
Well, my problem with the Darwinian synthesis is that it has no efficient cause. Basically, it has a purpose in Darwin's on the origin of species by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. So even in the subtitle here, Darwin couldn't get away from teleology. He said, or the preservation of the favored races. What is a favored race? That which is preserved. That's what moves on. The goal of evolution, according to Darwin's book, the title of it is preservation. In other words, survival. In other words, salvation. There's a struggle in this life. So we're struggling. What are we struggling for? We're struggling toward a goal, toward the end. He sat there and couldn't get away from saying that there is a purpose to everything, and yet it is without purpose. It is without efficiency. It's without teleology. There's no end whatsoever toward it. And yet he couldn't get away from that language at all, and it's incoherent.
We as we as
I'm sorry.
we as humans just have a promiscuous teleology, anyways.
That's right.
We often use words, even in biology. You open a biology textbook, right? You're gonna see the word design in there somewhere, right? You might see
Right.
bat wing was designed for flight, right?
For salvation.
Okay,
It's so to survive.
but design doesn't mean designer, right? When we say design in biology, we just mean the correlation between structure and function of.
That's right. And here's an excellent example of what I was telling you about before. You are, with all charity, you are a product of your society right now in saying that. You're saying, you're just repeating what you've been told. You've been told it looks like it's designed, but it's not. And you're also describing it in such a way as it's toward the goal of salvation. If it's not designed, then there's no goal, but you're conceding that there is a goal. The goal of the Batwing is to survive, which is salvation.
I wouldn't agree that there's a goal, and it's not even a struggle for. It's not even the survival of the fittest, right? That's a misconception out there. We need to just forget about survival of the fittest. Okay, that's not true. It's think about it as reproduction of the fittest. Okay, that's you can call it a goal if you want to. I mean, this is just how we understand our environment. Um,
Yeah, but reproduction is survival. I think I know what you're talking about. The only ones that survive are those that can reproduce. If you have characteristics that do not lead to reproduction,
well, it's
then you go without.
it's
You die.
well, it's a component of it. Yeah, survival is going to be obviously a component, but it's not the
Yeah,
main
right.
component.
But from my perspective, it doesn't really matter because they're both teleological. They're both toward the end of survival.
Okay, I just yeah, I just disagree with you that there's some end goal in mind. It's like saying that
Is
it's like
survival the goal?
no,
The survival is not the goal.
there's no goal.
Okay, so are you goaling to when you do science? Are you goaling toward survival?
Yeah, but listen,
But you said there's no goal.
listen. If you're lumping me, here's what you do. You're trying to lump like me, right?
Uh-huh.
Humans with brains that develop to think, right,
Uh-huh.
and navigate our environment, and then you try and lump us all together with like the universe, and then you
All I need is one thing. I just need one thing. If there's one modicum of teleology, then there's teleology. Wouldn't you agree with that?
no. You do this weird thing where you take properties of conscious creatures like ourselves, or even of apes. Apes have theory of mind, just like we do, right?
Yes,
Um,
to a sense, yeah.
so you do things like, I mean, I don't know. Think of another feature we have, like jealousy, right? You would say, we have, how could we have jealousy from like non-jealousy? There had to have been some sort of previous jealousy within in the universe in order for humans to have this quality too, right? Or else we're violating like the what you said before, like the law of identity or something, which
Oh, the
is
principle of proportionate causality.
very strange to me when you say that.
Uh-huh. It's strange for you?
Yeah.
So something from nothing is strange to you?
Who said something from nothing?
You said jealousy from nothing.
Yeah, you make these claims like intentionality from unintentionality, right?
Right. You
Okay.
can't have unintentionality cannot intend intentionality.
I mean, yeah, but that's just kind of a nonsensical statement.
No, it's not. It's a logical statement.
You're already saying unintentionality, and you're making it.
If you have a state of pure unintentionality, how can it intend intentionality into existence?
What does that even mean? What is a state of pure unintentionality
It means a state where there's no intention.
where there's no consciousness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because intention is a function of personhood and of consciousness.
So all it boils down to is the hard problem of consciousness. Like, how did an unconscious universe?
And you have heard from your colleagues that one of the greatest difficulties of the Darwinian synthesis is abiogenesis, is it not?
One of the hardest what?
Difficulties of the Darwinian synthesis is abiogenesis.
Well, I mean, abiogenesis is a different study, right? It's a different field.
But I mean, it's one of the difficulties because you have consciousness, you have purpose. And I would just say it's purposes arising unintentionally. And it
Does
violates a law of identity.
does a virus have purpose?
A virus. Are you talking about a virus isn't it something that lives off a host? It's not something that lives in another. Are you talking about from a biological perspective?
Yeah, it's essentially just like it's called a capsid. It's a protein coat.
Okay.
Protein coat, and it's typically RNA. Sometimes it's DNA, right? It's and viruses are. It's debatable on whether or not they're even life or not.
That's what I'm wondering.
they're kind of like little zombies. Okay.
Right.
The one,
They can't survive without a host, right?
right, but they
Okay.
invade your cell, hijack your DNA, your your ability to replicate, and that's how they replicate their genome, right?
Okay.
So, do they have a goal to do this?
I if it's not a if it's not if it's it I mean you could say is it determined toward such a thing? Um, I really don't know because I don't really know about I just know that they're I mean I know that they are I can't think of the word I'm looking for. They need a host. They're not living in and of themselves. They're not living entities. So I don't know.
And then, okay, so let's step it up a notch to a little more complex life forms like bacteria. You can put different types of bacteria together, um, form a little bacterial community where you have some that excrete a certain type of toxin that will kill the others. You have another that has like a transporter that uptakes this toxin. You have another one that it's immune, that doesn't have any transporters and it's not affected by the toxin. Um, Essentially, if you put these creatures together, they will start kind of modulating their behavior, right? For a type of optimization, which is the best for all of them to survive, right? I kind of did a poor job of describing that, but yeah, you see a behavior change in these bacteria as far as their biochemistry is involved. Um, you could say something like, and we could be tempted to say that they had some sort of intention there or purpose.
Mhm. Yes, and can I do a string share with you here?
All right.
See what you think about this. Hold on here. I haven't done this very much. My son helped me last time I did it the other day. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Can you see this this protein myosin dragging a ball of endorphins?
Yeah.
And let me play this for a sec here.
All right.
Okay, I just wanted to say that. So, hold on. Did it stop sharing it? Am I back yet or no?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So was that little guy, that protein myosin, was it purposing to do something there?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, it's determined to do that, and it's doing it toward the purpose of survival. There's teleology even in that at that basic level.
But there's these little incremental steps, like walking it back to the virus, okay, and this, we can walk it back even further, just to pure chemistry,
Hmm.
right? We can see like a spontaneous reaction, for example, that will occur spontaneously. Um, just basic chemistry, right?
Yeah, but
Is
you're presupposing that it came about spontaneously, right?
I don't really know what you mean by spontaneously.
Well, I mean, that it
The
did
spontaneous
that somehow it came out of nothing.
well, we observe spontaneous reactions all the time today.
What, like what?
Um, see if I can think of one.
Quantum mechanics, maybe?
No, where you've got like um, I'm trying to think of what the even some sort of ammonia crystals. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But basically, the two just touch, right, and absorb all the heat out of the environment. And if there's water around, that water automatically freezes, right? And it just all happens spontaneously.
Okay, but they were determined for that, right?
I mean, the wind could blow. If these elements were around, the wind could blow them onto each other, and this could occur.
I'm sorry, say that last thing again.
If these elements were nearby each other somehow in the environment, and just the wind blew and they mixed together, this reaction would happen spontaneously.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. But I mean, but they are determined, they have such characteristics that when they come together, that this reaction occurs, and it's something that's natural to the what they were doing. In other words, they're determined to do whatever that is that they were that the action happens. I mean, in other words, it's not just willy-nilly. It's like elephants don't give birth to human babies.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
think I see you do.
Everything works according to its way that it's made.
Maybe this is just the way your mind works. What I see you do a lot of is you use a lot of theological language, determined, intentional,
Hmm.
um, and I see this as just like a psychology of us as humans, right? You ask we tend to overread purpose and intention into everything. You ask a kid, for example, what's a tree for? Okay, they're going to say for birds to sing in. Okay, well, what's a lake for? For boats to float on.
Hmm.
And what's a rock for? For animals to scratch themselves. I see a lot of just overreading purpose and intention into everything, and I don't really see a need for it.
I don't see, yeah, but your whole, your whole paradigm completely collapses. If I can say one instance of teleology, for example, you having this hangout here, you have a purpose in that. And if there's one modicum of teleology in this universe, then there's something that is eternal that has that characteristic of intentionality.
Wow.
Because unintentionality cannot intend intentionality. It cannot exist unintentionally because it is intentional by definition.
Yeah,
This is where philosophy comes in, and it's just like what people. It's just like I don't know. You have no idea. I mean, you can't imagine how many times I've argued this, and it's just like, no, they don't want to accept it, but it's like it's
yeah,
unassailable.
okay, but intentionality. Okay, when I think of intentionality, I'm just thinking of like an ability to plan for the future. Okay, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's what it is, right?
Toward the goal of salvation.
No, I would exclude that. I would just
Well, what are you making plans for tomorrow? Let's say you're going to go to the grocery store. Why are you going to go to the grocery store?
to fulfill a need
Toward what end?
towards satisfying that need,
Right. Toward salvation. Right. For the day. So you
salvation,
can eat. If you don't eat, what happens?
lose weight.
And if you never eat again, what happens?
Okay, yeah, okay. No?
And you're determined toward that goal. Something has programmed you to value life, and it can't be unintentional.
Yes, evolution has programmed me.
No, evolution has no efficiency. There's no person behind it saying, "Ooh, you should live."
But
That's the whole point. That's why I make fun of it. I always tease evolution to be one of the stupidest paradigms. It's so ubiquitous. It's amazing to me.
there doesn't need to be. Why
Yeah,
does
I know, because it's convenience to say that.
I
not
mean,
because you reason
I can take your same argument of saying of God is pure actuality, right?
it.
Yet here we have contingency, don't we?
Yeah, because we're not God.
Okay. So how do you get contingency from pure actuality?
Because actuality creates contingency. That's the only way it could be.
Well, then it wouldn't be, if it's creating something, it wouldn't be pure actuality.
Sure, it would, because it creates things from a perspective of eternity. Just because God makes something in time does not mean at that time somehow, this is the big debate we're having today in Christianity, some really, William Lane Craig, some really stupid stuff. William Lane Craig says once God creates, then he's got to be subject to time. And it's like, what? No, he doesn't. If he did, then he's not God. He's subject to something, then he's not God. God means that he is Lord over everything, and that includes time.
Okay, so how do you go from pure actuality to
He
contingency?
himself is not potential, but he can create potential that is distinct from him.
So how does that not break the law of identity, like you like to say all the time?
Because we're not God. It doesn't violate the law of identity.
How does that answer it?
What do you mean?
You always make these claims that you can't go from A to B, right? Because it violates the law of identity somehow, right? But yet with God, you're going from A to B. You're going from pure actuality to contingency.
Contingency, there's nothing, contingency cannot exist without pure actuality. But pure actuality is not contingent upon contingency. So he can create, but he doesn't have to be subject to that which he creates. There's no violation of any law in that.
Okay.
Aristotle, who came up with those laws, held to that. He wasn't completely consistent and correct, but
Okay, I'm going
to mover.
We can come back to this. I wanted to kind of keep it a little more on track as far as
Sure.
biological evolution too. So,
Mm-hmm.
So you do not believe that humans and the great apes have a common ancestry?
No, we've never. I believe in evolution insofar it's been scientifically verified, which is, from species or between genus and not beyond family, though. It's never been observed.
Okay. So you think there needs to be someone who could go back in a time machine a million years ago and observe all this in order for it to be verified?
No, I think that we have a faithful witness in the Bible, that we have Jesus telling us, verifying it and improving, by way of miracles as well as the prophets, that indeed, that God made us, and He made us all from one man and one woman, Adam and Eve.
Okay. Are you familiar with chromosome number 2 in humans?
Yes.
And what do you know about it?
That there's a common with the apes or something, that some purport that I don't remember exactly what it is, that it's somehow there's a commonality that what is the word I'm looking for?
Here, I'll help you.
Hypothesize that it was an ape gene that somehow links us to them.
Here, I'll help you out.
Sure.
Okay. So humans, we have 46 chromosomes, right, in our genome. And the great apes, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, they have 48, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, from all other lines of evidence, we share common ancestry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the ability to sequence the human genome. I mean, we've even sequenced the Neanderthal genome. We've sequenced the chimpanzee's genome, right? There's a huge problem, right? If we have 46 and they have 48, where the hell did the other two go? Okay, if we share common ancestry, if evolution is correct and common ancestry is correct, right? All right, we know that there couldn't have been a deletion. There's too many vital genes there that would have been lethal. Okay, what we have witnessed in other animals is telomeric fusion. Okay, between two chromosomes.
Mm-hmm.
The telomeres are basically the tips of the chromosome. They get shorter as we age. It's kind of what makes us age, basically. So it starts cutting into, useful genetic information, right? Think of it like a shoestring with the little tips on the end of it, right? Those are the telomeres. And when a cell divides, right in the center of the gene, you have what's called a centromere. of the chromosome, which helps, I won't get all into it, but it pulls the two strands of chromosomes apart, the sister chromatids, during meiosis. Okay, so if we share a common ancestry with the great apes, we should find a chromosomal, a direct head-to-head telomeric fusion of two chromosomes that are still found in the apes. Okay, so we went looking for it, and if we did not find it, this would be a huge upset, a huge problem for evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, we did find it. It's chromosome number 2,
Mm-hmm.
chromosome 13 and 14 in the great apes. And there we have it right in the center of chromosome number 2, two telomeres where they don't belong. Okay, they fuse together. And we would also predict that one of the centromeres would be deactivated. It was. There's two centromeres, one's deactivated. All of our predictions that we predicted from common ancestry have been verified by looking at chromosome number 2, all the way down to every single individual nucleotide. The odds of that being the case is just, I mean, there's no other explanation for it. Upon creationism, makes no sense at all. Upon evolution, it makes perfect sense and is predicted. So either God is trying to deceive us, if God is real, and make it look as if we share common ancestry, or it is the case that we share common ancestry.
Okay, well, that's a workable theory, but it does not mitigate the fact that are you familiar with the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy?
The what?
It's
No.
called post hoc ergo propter hoc. After this, then because of this. Common substance means common source. Just because you can find a commonality between the species does not necessarily mean that one grouping gave rise to the other one. Even if there's many, again, the problem that I have with this is that such a significant evolution has never been viewed. They've been studying fruit flies since the 1960s because they have a very short lifespan, and they've been trying to evolve them, and for 50 plus years. And I think they live like 40 minutes or something like that. And so they've done everything that they can to try to observe a change in the I don't know if it'd be the genus. I don't know how far they would go. And everything they've done to it, they've gotten, six fly and blue and red and all these changes within fruit flies, but they always remain as fruit flies. And so even if you can hypothesize and you can come up with this great theory that says that that there is this common line that links all of life, because I mean, what do we have? We have like 46% of the same or 50% of the same genetic material as a flower. Isn't that true, or something like that? There's a tremendous commonality there. But like I said, you cannot hypothesize that one gave rise to the other simply because they have common substance. That's a logical fallacy, and that's what you're doing.
Chromosome number 2, it's not just a commonality. It's not like sharing common genes. Like, this could only be the case if you have the same parents, okay, down the line. Just like with ERVs. Are you familiar with what an ERV is?
I am not.
It's called an endogenous retrovirus. We all have them, and it's you have them in you, I have them in me. Me and you have the same exact endogenous retroviruses on the same exact locations in our genome. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is very. I mean, it's just like Maury Povich show. Who's the father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can look at the markers and determine who your parents are or who they aren't just by looking at your DNA. Okay, so an endogenous retrovirus is basically just a virus that has made its way into our germ cells and spliced its DNA into our DNA. And because it's in our germ cells, once we have children, now every cell in their body has that viral DNA segment in their genome. Okay, and it's
right.
That location, and it's fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Their children have the same one. Their children have the same one. Because me and you have common ancestry, me and you have the same exact endogenous retroviruses. We have thousands of them, right? Thousands upon thousands in the same locations. If us and chimps, for example, share common ancestry, they should also have some of these same exact endogenous retroviruses, and they should be in the exact same locations on their genome. And indeed they are, thousands of them, right? The likelihood of just one is so astronomically small, right? But we have thousands of them in common with the chimps. And then we'd also expect, and you can draw a phylogenetic tree out with this information that's going to match other phylogenetic trees based on other data, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would expect us and, say, a rat to also share some of those endogenous retroviruses, but not very many, right?
Mm-hmm.
And indeed we do, just not a whole lot, right? And it's going to be a perfect match with all of our other data, which all points to common ancestry. I mean, it's kind of such a preponderance of data like this that it becomes, like Francis Collins says, just undeniable.
Okay, so from your perspective then, you would agree that there's nobody has observed evolution on a large scale ever.
So you're talking about like at a species or above species level where
well, I think that's maybe above genus.
so you're talking about say a four-legged hippo-like animal evolving.
Well, I would like to see a man to ape. I mean, I don't think none of them are conclusive, any of the transitional forms that they have. And there should be millions of them, I would think.
There's a bunch of transitional forms for early humans, early Homo species, early hominids.
Okay. Well, they're not controversial without controversy.
I've held the skulls in my hand.
Of what?
Of different early hominid species.
They're
not human.
They're
not human, and they're not apes either. They are bipedal. They do walk upright. There's a bunch of them. Or it's littered with them. But at one time, we shared this planet with Neanderthals. And
yeah, this is all you're just talking about hypothesis here.
No, this is testable.
Science.
This is testable. You can look at your genome right now, Trey, and because you have European ancestry, you're going to find Neanderthal DNA anywhere from 2 to 6% in your genome.
Neanderthal was a man.
No, they weren't us. They weren't us. We know that by
Tell me something, Aaron. Tell me what do you think about black people?
It's more variation within groups like Africans than there is between groups, between us and Africans on a genetic level. Of course, as we migrated across the continents and moved to different latitudes, our skin colors changed, our facial features and structures slightly changed as well to adapt to our surroundings.
Okay, well, I think the whole thing about saying that Darwinian evolution is not racist, I think is a joke. Because if you want to be consistent with your perspective.
What? Sorry, 1 second.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. What?
I've got support on the phone and I need help restarting our router.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a second, Trey?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I probably need to go here pretty soon anyway. He's got some little kids and they're in bed. Maybe he's having trouble with them right now.
Hey, Trey.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to cut it short. We've got to.
Nope. Well, you know what? I was just saying, I need to get going. I like to keep these in an hour, and I need to get to bed, so that's fine. We can continue this conversation if you'd like, and do it again.
That's a good conversation. I'd like to continue it if you're up for it.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Aaron. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.